Hi, everybody. Good morning and welcome to the Property AI Report. This is your weekly digest of all things property and AI, brought to you by me, Mal McCallion, and my good friend and co-host, Matt Goddard. Matt, how are you today?
Absolutely brilliant. How are you, Mal?
I'm blown away by all the stuff we've got to talk about because there is way too much, particularly on the property side. So let's dive into our property news. All right. This week in property news, we want to start with the CRM battle. ReapIt this week went big on what they're calling a pioneering mobile-based AI copilot for agents. It's called ReapIt AI, surprisingly, RAI or Ray. And essentially, it is looking to be the AI companion that every estate agent needs just sitting in their pocket. At the same time, Street has gone large with probably my favorite quote of the week from Tom's staff, basically saying that this is, I think, the most important development in recent estate agent history or something like that. So this is stepping up to be something quite significant and really interesting. So Matt, obviously very much something that you know all about. What's your take on it?
It's good that it's here. I think people were sort of wondering what was going on with certainly with ReapIt. Obviously Street came out with a lot of fanfare, and actually sort of quietly, Rex did a sneak preview event of their new AI, which we might have alluded to on previous podcasts, probably a month or so ago, but there's not been anything hit the public realm, as it were, and we're not by any means bitter, are we, Mal, that we weren't part of the good and the great that were invited to that session. Mark
That's
Jenkins,
right. That's absolutely
I hope
fine.
you listen to this. But there's things obviously going on in the background, and you'd hope so. In the week that Salesforce announced their Salesforce Headless 360, which is their new agentic led take. Basically, there's no front end. You just let the agents do your work for you.
Sounds a lot more painful than it actually is, guys. It's okay.
Exactly. For those working in marketing, I guess they're used to headless CMSs and that sort of thing. But for everyone else, you're sort of thinking French Revolution, right?
Exactly right.
But it's great to sort of see the publications. I guess it'll be proof, as always, is in the pudding when these various things arrive. So to put it in context, on like a timeline, there was Rex a month or so ago that had certainly our dear friend Simon Wales frothing at the mouth about what had been talked about and how it was going to change everything. And it sounds very much driven by voice AI within their Rex mobile app. Then I think Street came first, didn't it, with their normal Street style video, which I think you've got a story later on about video generation, haven't you? So everyone can create Street style videos now with the right prompts. Then Alto followed it up quite quickly with an announcement that they're coming next Thursday. Theirs looks much more like it's going to be industry speakers and sort of conversations as opposed to any product-related demos. And then obviously ReapIt hit yesterday with a big announcement and a landing page that just scrolls and does everything that geeks like me and you love, from MCPs to voice AI to data models and cloud instance, and most importantly, cybersecurity.
Phenomenal. It's just there is everything here. And I think it's worth just kind of like, again, sort of raising it up and going, right, what's actually at stake here? All right. Why are all these big kind of, big beasts slugging it out, right now for these prizes? Obviously you've got Street coming in as kind of the upstart, kind of the recent, high tech, high visibility, high claim. And just to be very specific about the claim that was made, because I garbled it a bit. Tom Staff said that this is the most significant technological shift in our industry will experience in our lifetimes. Okay, so that's the big bold claim from Street, and what they're all trying to do, it is this land grab, right? It is how can we deploy this technology, and it is revolutionary technology, right? I don't think anybody is arguing about that anymore. That actually, we'll be able to do things on your behalf. We'll be able to go and find, the most likely person to move in a particular street. We'll be able to go and then, actually phone them, email them, do all this sort of stuff, from on its own. You just set the parameters and off it goes. So this is huge. And as a kind of legacy business, as ReapIt is, for them to be coming out with this, swinging like this, I think is incredible. Actually, there are a lot of these historic CRM systems that are really just kind of struggling to make sense of it. And it looks, and again, this is the marketing side of things that, as you say, the proof of the pudding is going to be in the eating. It looks like it feels like it's right. That they're talking about actually it's not you have to log in and then you have to kind of like do stuff. It's like it sits there, it understands what's going on, and then it's going to kind of help you to be a better agent. So yeah, I think it's I think it's really exciting because I'm very sad. But I think from an estate agent point of view, and listeners out there, I think this is super exciting. You are going to be presented with a smorgasbord of different options in terms of what you are going to be able to do, and the fact that it's coming out of these CRM systems. So it's already baked in. I think it is really, really interesting. I always wonder about the pricing mechanism. Actually that there are business models to protect here. There are seats and things like that. Charging by seat. How is that all going to play out if one phone can do pretty much the work of however many individuals? So I think that's going to be something to watch. But yeah, I think on the face of it, bravo everybody. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Really, really interesting.
You're absolutely right. And obviously I mentioned sort of Salesforce Headless 360 there, but it's in the same week and it sort of bounces onto tech side. But just put it in context with the charging piece, GitHub Copilot has gone from being a user to purely token based, and they made that big announcement overnight. So it's how do you look at that? But to sort of step back and not try to be as geeky as you and I are, the things like from the ReapIt announcement, and this is echoed by what Rex had previously talked about, is you can be driving to your appointments and getting context of meeting Mal McCallion in the background of your notes on him and when you've met him before, and speaking conversationally like you've talked about before when you were doing your roadshow, talking to ChatGPT voice, actually talking to your estate agency CRM and surfacing that information without having to log in and print the file notes or spend 10 minutes reading through and understanding. And the other bit that I think you're absolutely right, ReapIt was the slower ones to make the announcement, but the announcement that came out was really big, but it's really well considered in terms of a similar way to with like the ReapIt Foundations. And what sort of struck me about theirs is the sort of the agentic app marketplace, like with Claude connectors, where we can go in and find various different connections. For sort of seeing that it's those agents that are already being built and available from partners and from within ReapIt, so you can sort of get started from the off, right?
Yeah, exactly that. And yeah, we are obviously looking at that and very excited about that from where we are too. So yeah, lots and lots going on. We will keep you up to date with it all. But yeah, there is I think it's going to continue to develop, and nobody wants to be left behind on this, right? It's going to whoever you're using is going to be looking at this and be trying to catch up for sure. All right, next up on our property news this week, the government. Do they rarely feature in our podcast? They do kind of occasionally, but they have been very vociferous in their support for something that Connells and Lloyds have, and we're using air quotes here, launched because it's been around for a little while. And it's called a fully digital home buying service. Now, this could be described as kind of the holy grail in our industry. This is the thing that is going to silver bullet, absolutely is going to solve the problem of home moving, bringing all of the different conveyancing and mortgages and all that sort of buyers and sellers and their solicitors and that all into one place where they can actually just have this long just a process where everybody's got the same data and so on and so forth. Obviously Lloyd's is very keen on providing the finance side of things, and Connells has obviously a massive distribution. So and the government has loudly supporting it, and there's a lot of marketing out about it and all that sort of stuff. So I think it's an interesting. So for me, the big thing is this a real kind of end-to-end silver bullet? Is it going to absolutely solve the big problem? And it feels that it doesn't have enough people in it. It feels like it's very much a big kind of marketing piece for Connells and Lloyds, and they have managed to get the housing secretary to say something positive about it. But I don't know, Matt, what your thoughts are, but it feels like it's more of a marketing thing than an actual kind of structural change, although there is a lot of press about it right now.
What was the turn of phrase you used off air? I've not Googled it yet, so I wasn't sure if it was safe for the podcast even. In fact, let's leave that there. I don't want you to go into it. But
yeah, there are a number of things we say.
It's been around for a while, LMS and the National Property Transaction Network, this NPTN, which is ultimately underpinning it. And I've actually been quite impressed. Met LMS on a few occasions. My good pal from the Foxtons days, as always, Matthew Harn's there, and he's other than a number of people it works, but I think crucially, as you sort of rightly alluded to, it was the first one that sort of popped up on the scene. Talk about this with blockchain was Kahoot, wasn't it, or Codedupe?
Yeah.
And that they broke down, I guess, ultimately because of the fact that not everyone was connected. And the very nature of the chain is that you're only as strong as your weakest link.
Yeah, and you've seen, so OneDome have got a really good kind of package as well, and they've been going to that for a number of years too. And theirs is really decent. But again, it comes down to how do you convince so many different participants to actually get involved? How do you get that solicitor that's, down on the corner of, Gilberdike High Street and to actually be part of of this network when they're so used to just using pen and paper or, phoning people and stuff. So yeah, look, I'm not suggesting it's destined to failure. I do think, as we always do, that technology is really, really important. And, everybody trying to do this sort of stuff, fair play, congratulations, keep going, because it will nudge things forwards. And in the end, it will break the dam. But yes, it feels very much like it's not something that is going to be sort of mass appeal. It's not something that necessarily, from a small, medium-sized estate agent is going to jump all over it. Possibly even more so because Connells is all over it and probably has some kind of stake in it as well. But yeah, look, I always applaud efforts to improve things. But yeah, this feels like it's a little bit more kind of style over substance, I think. All right. So next up in our property news, we are going to just take a little segue into the market news in general. So there's a couple of things here. You've already alluded to your Foxtons Mafia connections. What did your Mafia mates make of Foxtons results this week?
It's a bit of a loaded question, that one, isn't it? I think the one positive is obviously lettings. I think lettings result, wasn't it? And it was at a time where everybody is now focused. I think today, the last day that you can serve Section 21s. It's in terms of you've got the in-person versus via post and how that renters' rights act is going to kick in. So maybe that's part of the lettings lift is all the people who have served Section 21s and got their properties back on the market. But it wasn't just Foxtons, was it? You spotted something in relation to EXP.
Yeah. So again, just kind of rolling up a lot of the kind of news that's been coming out of how the market is changing. So yeah, EXP, boost market share for self-employed agents is the story. It's 20 CI. It's their kind of usual regular update on the shares of the market. One of the big interesting things is that the self-employed market has risen to 2.8% right now. I don't know about anybody out there, but if you kind of went on pure, I don't know, social media posts, even the self-employed market was about 90% of the entire thing. But yeah, look, it's growing and, fair play to them. I think it's up 25%. So it's quarter higher than it was in 2025. Yeah, that's amazing, right? Any growth of that scale is huge. But it is still a tiny part of the overall industry. We've spoken last week about Knight Frank coming into it, Beecham Estates this week. People may not know, Central Mayfair, astonishing business, only deals in the hyper prime end of the market.
Amazing Buffon as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, Gary Hersham. Yeah, he's a bit of a legend around those parts. So yeah, so for them to be getting into this kind of self-employed / associate model or whatever you want to call it, again, it's a growth area, but it is still tiny. But I think as well interesting in this is that the onliners have slumped to 1.1% of the market. Now, those that are as old as us will remember the kind of 2017, 2018 when Purple Bricks was in its pomp. And basically it was, there were predictions that it was going to take 20% of the market or more. And that was certainly the kind of noises that were coming out of the Bruce brothers and others. So yeah, for it to be at 1.1% now, and again, there's some decent businesses in there doing their thing, Yopa and others. But it's certainly, an interesting kind of number. And again, obviously the Bruce brothers are kind of rolling their sleeves up and getting stuck back in at Purple Bricks and obviously going to attack again. But yeah, I think overall in the market, it still says that if you add in the 5% of, for sale by owner, still 95% of people are just using traditional estate agents to sell and let their properties. And I think that's probably the biggest takeout of all this news that comes out of the kind of market share reports. All right, that is our property news for this week. We're now going to dive into AI and tech news. Man, there's a lot of this in there. Even right up until again last night. Jeez. So yes, so why don't we start with what came out last night or what has been coming out over the last sort of couple of days. OpenAI released ChatGPT 5.5 last night. Now, neither of us have had time to really dive deep into it. They did release the image version of it, which I've had to play around with a couple of days ago, and that's good. I mean, and this is the difficulty now. Is like it's so good. It's just like the incremental improvement is. Yeah, great. Well done. It's good. It's really good. But yeah, this is how fat and happy we've got on our AIs is just like, yeah, do you know what? It's just like incremental. Might not change but yeah, 5.5 as the kind of big move. This is the Project Spud, right? That we've been talking about for a while. And yeah, have you had any kind of poking at it at all, Matt?
No, only the headlines that came out overnight. So as you say, it's Spud that's been released and that there is mention of it. It's actually more powerful than Mythos, which is the Anthropic one that's not going to be released. And apart from two, actually, it didn't make our news articles, but I think it's on Mythos. It's the Anthropic model. It's so big and powerful and scary that they're not going to release it to us mere mortals, but it's been released to 40 businesses, including the Department of War, which they're not working with anymore, but the Department of War is now using it as well to check for cybersecurity threats. And also, someone's managed to hack it, and through one of their third-party agents who's using it to test, someone's hacked it in an ethical way, because they just do it for shits and giggles to hack stuff, and they've managed to get into it. So Spud is now here, and apparently on a couple of benchmarks is also beating Mythos.
As good as Mythos.
It doesn't look like they've held back in terms of releasing it to us immortals, which is nice.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, I have some skepticism. I think that it can be as good as Mythos. Mythos has actually been built in a different way from everything that I've kind of seen and heard than the kind of traditional the AIs that we've come to know and love over the last couple of years. But yes, so there may be a single benchmark or a couple of benchmarks that it can kind of beat Mythos on. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because Mythos hasn't been released. Obviously, OpenAI is trying to be part of this Project Glasswing, which is the let's protect the world from the dangers of Mythos, but it's actually then started to use it commercially and gone, right, actually, now we've got access to it. Let's compare what we're doing against what the other thing. It's like, is that entirely ethical? I don't really know. But yeah, as you say, it has been hacked, has Mythos, and there's a bit of thawing, apparently. So Dario Amodei, who is the chief exec of Anthropic, who make Claude, has been seen at the Department of War having a chinwag with some people. So, hopefully that's going to kind of sort itself out, because it was a stupid thing in the first place. And then, yes, so we will be back next week, obviously, with some more about ChatGPT 5.5 and give you a bit more intel. But yes, it looks good.
That's 5.5, but you alluded to there, Image Gen 2.0, or just ChatGPT Image 2.0 came out earlier in the week. If that's right into your wheelhouse, alongside Claude Design, right, which we'll cover off as well. But what have you managed to create that with 2.0 versus Nano Banana?
Yeah, so, and that's it, right? So going up against Nano Banana 2, which is great, amazing, and a step change, and it is as good. Okay, it is as good. It's very good on. It claims to be pixel kind of level. You can actually point at a pixel and say change that. And their big kind of marketing piece was all about kind of writing things on a grain of rice, which is fine and good, and it is good. But yeah, I wasn't blown away. The uses that I use it for, that we use it for, requires a certain level of specificity, which is already there, and this is a marginal improvement on it. So well done. I think they've got to a kind of market leading position just about, but I don't doubt that Nano Banana 3 will probably beat it in about 3 days' time.
Well, that's it. So Google goes quiet for a little while and then release things. But I think the pieces that 2.0 is doing really well and really powerful is the behind the scenes reasoning. You have to put very little into the prompt to be able to actually have that information go off and be created. Being able to generate album covers or magazine covers seems to be the fad at the moment, and or trend, or whatever the right term is, to go off, and it's going off and creating barcodes that can then be scanned and actually go to the actual products, which is a bit niche, but that world knowledge that's being brought into those images, and as you say, the text on the grain of rice was very specific, but just being able to render that text so well is a bit of a step change.
Yeah, and I think it kind of, interestingly, it goes back to kind of Sora and Sora 2. So if you ever used Sora in any kind of great shakes, what you were able to do was it had this almost like kind of almost unconscious kind of like it would do things that were really funny and really good that you hadn't actually specified, and this is doing the same thing in the imaging. So it looks like they've kind of translated some of the dead Sora.
Yeah,
kind of understanding. Yeah, RIP into this imaging too. So yeah, it's good for that. But I'm far more prescriptive in my prompts, and I don't really want it to go off and do some wild stuff.
I must wear an orange polo shirt.
Exactly, yes, and nothing else. So yeah, that is absolutely all we do. So I think that we do make sure that that we're quite controlled about the prompting. And as with everything AI, the prompt is the thing. If you can be really good at prompting, then you've got a step change and a jump on everybody else. So we're really focused on that. So this is good. Again, absolutely no problem with it at all. It's helpful to be around. We will do the ident for this week's episode using it, so you can make your own judgments as to whether there's any difference to what has come before.
At some point, we should just actually use our real pictures as well, right? So people know what we look like.
Yeah, we probably should. For those not watching on YouTube, yes, we did the original ident. I can't remember if this is like inside baseball stuff. We hadn't been together for a little while, so we just kind of took two images of ourselves, photos of ourselves, and put it together with AI. So yeah, we've got this like repeated image of us that people probably think we look like, and it's not actually what we look like. But anyway,
that's all right.
All right.
So Claude Design is the other one straight into your wheelhouse, and this. Go on.
Oh my God! So Claude Design, and we only have literally about 5 minutes left to talk, or 10 minutes. But Claude Design is something that you need in your life. Okay, it is absolutely astonishing. So what is it? Claude is obviously one of the big kind of large language models. Opus 4.7 dropped last week, actually, and just as we were about to go on air. It is phenomenal. The Claude Cowork has been out for a while. Again, that's amazing. You can put in challenges, you can put in questions, and it will go away and do loads of research, bring it back. It's phenomenal. But Claude Design basically solves one of the big problems, which is how do you get that creativity, that kind of level of comprehension. And as an example of what we've been doing this week, so we've been working very hard on a particular product with My Porter. It's called My Home, and basically it's a consumer-facing product that allows consumers to kind of come in and use AI within an agent's kind of branding. And we developed the website, we developed the product, and it's looking amazing. But we never had any brand guidelines, right? It was just basically, it was a new product and all that. So basically we put it into Claude Design and said, right, can you build some brand guidelines for this? All right. And it just went away and it came back with like the most phenomenal brand guidelines I've probably ever seen. And, you would pay 15, 20 grand for that kind of level of quality. And then you can say, right, actually, I'm going to do a presentation. We launched it yesterday to some select agents. And we said, right, build a presentation using those brand guidelines that basically articulates this product. And it went off and did it. It was like unbelievable. So yeah, look, it is incredible. I'm really excited. You might notice by it, and I think that actually is something that people should be put your website into it, see what it comes back with, and then have a look. Matt, have you been?
I have, and for those of obviously I've looked at it more from a product point of view, and Figma, which people use historically for wireframes, and in fact, someone resigned from the Figma board, didn't they, as part of Claude Design launching? Because
they're Anthropic.
Exactly. So one of the Anthropic guys had to, I didn't have to, but decided to resign from the Figma board, because you can now within Claude Design, and for those who maybe listen or watch this and then think, well, how do I get started? Go to Claude.ai in your browser. On the left-hand side menu bar, there's now a artist palette. Click on that and it'll open up Claude Design. Or just go to claude.ai/design. And you can, from there, it can be a bit overwhelming. And I actually found it first, I was like, well, which one of these options do I go for? Is it prototype? Is it slide deck? Is it from template? Do I import my own design system? There's an option to create your design system. But actually, you can start very simply with the second tab is slide deck. And think about, well, what's the next presentation I've got to do? Set up new slide deck, put the project name. You can then drag in like an email, for example, where you've got some ideas that someone sent you for a presentation you need to be giving, or you've got a Word document with sketched ideas, drag them in as attachments and just say, get started. If you've got a PowerPoint with your branding already in, pull that in as well and just say to it, use this presentation for my branding, and watch what it creates. And it's not just design, but it'll also go through and generate the content, the holding based on using Claude behind the scenes. So it's incredibly powerful. And what's even better that we've not talked about yet is it then gives you toggles. So you can then say, well, do you want, for example, we've got our consulting group, we've got blues and we've got golds, and we've got basically it's all the Everton colours, that is ultimately our brand guidelines. So you can then toggle, do we like this as the header? Do we like that? We change the fonts. But they're all there just as toggles that you can see in real time, changing of the presentation or the wireframes or the app. So yeah, incredibly powerful and just makes design so much more accessible for the layperson.
It really does, and fun. And, actually, you can actually go in and really start to rethink all those things that you've just kind of got sitting there. And probably, for years, you've just kind of gone, this is just way too hard. But you can actually sit there and kind of discuss your branding, and say, right, actually, I kind of really wanted to make it a little bit more upmarket. We kind of just got this logo from way back in the day and we haven't really changed it, blah, blah. And it will literally kind of bring forwards a whole new, based on your history, but also blah, blah, blah. And it's, yeah, to your point, I think that it is something that is going to change fundamentally. And, again, obviously, as with all these things, if it is saving somebody 15 grand on a brand guideline, then that's going to be an impact on designers and so on and so forth. So there is, there's real world impact out there from all of this. But at the same time, I think from a business point of view, and, going back since the dawn of time, when as humans, we always develop and we grow and we change and, we're always looking for efficiencies / laziness. I think that this is a step change. And it unlocks something that historically has been so hard, and you had to pay a phenomenal amount of money to a very brilliant expert to do. And now it is literally on tap. It's incredible. So I'm not going to talk about it anymore until next week because we've got to talk about something else. But yes, I'm going to come back with even more examples of things that I've done over the weekend. Right. That is Claude Design. Astonishing stuff. We've got loads of other things to talk about. So SpaceX is it's empire building. Elon Musk is empire building. So he has basically bid for Cursor for 60 billion. Now, again, those that listen regularly know about 3 years ago, Cursor didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
And now $60 billion is being talked about as its value. And SpaceX, XAI, Tesla, Elon Musk's basically different businesses are all kind of looking to buy this for 60 billion. You've got some interesting takes on this, Matt. What are your thoughts?
Well, first, we just need to work out how to pronounce it right, but it's a bit of a Rorschach test of Elon Musk. Have I nailed it? Are we going with that pronunciation? Is this a good thing or a bad thing? In one way, he's building the AI Avengers, bringing together Cursor, which he's looking to buy for 60 billion, but there's also talk of him pairing up with Mistral, which I know that's always one of the AI large language models you throw into the mix as well, isn't it? And, so the question then becomes, what do you call this new super? Is it Load Rock? He brings his AI Avengers together, but obviously there's a talk of a lot of IPOs as well. And so is this his way of getting back into relevancy, where Grok has maybe faded, putting it inside Cursor, where we've got Claude Code and now Codex, and Google chasing it with their anti-gravity? Is that also bringing him back into relevancy there? And some people are going to think this is amazing, and some people are going to think, well, this is a really bad news.
Yes, choose your supervillain. But yeah, so I think it is interesting. The world is littered with pre-IPO acquisitions that pump prime, the value, and everyone goes, now it's got Cursor in there. Maybe it is worth $1 trillion for IPO, etc. So yeah, I think it is quite a tactical acquisition as well as you say, kind of looking like Elon Musk is basically trying to hoover up the entire universe of decent product. But yeah, I also think the other story is they built this 3 years ago and it's now worth 60 billion, and that is an absolutely phenomenal feat as well. All right. Next up, just a little look into kind of the Hollywood, the video side of things. A couple of stories. Runway, which is one of the specialists in video, they say that AI could help Hollywood make 50 films a year instead of 100, instead of a single 100 million blockbuster. They are working with a number of different studios out there to try and streamline a lot of production, processing, operational stuff with AI. Obviously, the kind of headline for most people is, but it will also replace actors, and it will in some way, shape, or form. But yes, we will end up, as we will with most things, with a kind of premium paid for human-made stuff and human-made videos and films versus AI versions. So that's the runway thing. And then Luma, which is again another production studio, AI production studio, is about to launch. The first project is a faith-focused Moses story starring Academy Award winner Ben Kingsley. Okay, so it's all going off over there. Any thoughts? No.
It's another one that's straight into your wheelhouse, isn't it? Maybe it loops back so everyone can start using Hollywood actors in their estate agency's CRM releases.
Yes, yeah, exactly. You can tell some of these stories. Some of them mine, some of them are Matt, and this one very much mine. So yes, I just landed that on him really right now. All right, that is all we've got time for in our AI and tech news. We've got still lots to go. Let's dive into Tool of the Week. All right, so Tool of the Week, we have got Google's AI mode. Now, Google's AI mode has been around for a little while. It's on the top of every Google search. You can click on it, and then it will kind of behave a little bit more like ChatGPT. You've got when you do a search on Google, it will come back with an AI overview at the top. You can then extend that by using AI mode, and it actually brings back a much richer answer. And now it's rolling out a feature designed to help with planning your summer travel. So within AI mode, you can see whether things are in stock. You can basically say, I forgot to pack my prescription sunglasses, blah, blah, blah. Where can I get one nearby? And basically, it's just it's a really interesting kind of day-to-day use case for AI. Anything that you've come across with this, Matt?
I've not used it as yet, but I was actually looking for some bits and pieces because I might have mentioned I'm off to San Francisco in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to need some obviously travel essentials for that. So knowing that you can cross over between what you're looking for around Google Maps and that location type search is a brilliant use cases, and obviously will make sense from a Google point of view. Just get those dendrils sunk even deeper into you, right?
Yeah, exactly. And have you cleaned your social media before you're going over to the States?
It was strange having to fill in those forms. I've got my Esther. That's the key thing. And I've not had to put down our Spotify or podcast URL yet.
Don't hide it. All right. That was our Tool of the Week. Go play with that. We've got some weird AI of the week as well that we just wanted to. Our occasional series, again, literally going to take minutes. Zoom. So World, it used to be called WorldCoin. It's called World. It's Sam Altman, who is the chief exec of OpenAI. And one of his projects, basically, it's about verifying your humanity. Okay, so the idea here is basically it takes your eyeball and verifies that you are. It doesn't take your eyeball. Sorry, it takes a shot of your eyeball. It's not quite.
I've seen that in films.
Yeah, exactly. To get into secure location. No, basically it takes a shot of your eyeball, and it basically that is kind of like your fingerprint, or it's obviously unique, and that proves you're human. Then you can use that kind of ID to get into various things. Zoom is now teaming up with World to verify humans in meetings.
What happens if you have a cataract operation or change your contact lenses?
You're toast, basically. They will not verify you in your meeting. You will not be able to talk
in the meeting. Fair enough.
Yeah. I'm thinking about doing that in this podcast, actually, because there are times, mate, when I think, I ask you questions and you don't even answer. But no, it is again, very weird, but very much what's coming down the track, which is where, yes, we will be looking around this meeting and going, how many of these people are actually human? But World is going to be able to tell us. All right. That is all we have time for, amazingly, this week. Packed a lot in. I hope you enjoyed it. We are going to be back next week with plenty more in our property and AI news. Matt, thank you for being there as ever. You've got a busy one, right?
I have. I'm off to Gilberdike now that you've called it out, and I need to see what's on that high street.
It's legendary, absolutely. Listen, thanks everybody for listening in. We'll be back again next week. Have a wonderful 7 days.
Take care, everyone. How did you pull